I was turning myself down before I even attempted. I didn't know. That determination, that it was that mindset. It was that before my mindset was, I want this house, and I wasn't hearing anything else, and I got that home. Now I was in the defeatist mindset where no, I can't. I don't have any of this. And, I eventually came out of that and found a seller finance that I was able to get into. But back to the point, I was defeating myself before I even attempted it. So it's that mindset. And a lot of us, hold ourselves back.
Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight Heck, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more months than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however, emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident.
Welcome back to the Give a Heck podcast. I'm your host, Dwight Heck. I'm here to help you live life on purpose, not by accident. Each week, we dive deep into real stories, raw truths, and powerful conversations that challenge you to give a heck about your life and the life of others. Today's guest is a powerful example of resilience, creativity, and action. David Webb, known as the No Money Millionaire, went from being broke and facing adversity to building a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio, all without using his own money. His journey began at rock bottom, but through discipline, mindset shifts, and leveraging other people's money, he discovered how to create opportunities where others saw obstacles. David is a real estate investor, author of the digital book, The No Money Millionaire, Build Wealth Through Real Estate Without Using a Dime of Your Own Money, and host of the No Money Millionaire podcast. He teaches everyday people how to break limiting beliefs, master their mindset, and use proven no money down strategies to achieve financial freedom. His message is simple: no money, no excuses. Through his book, podcast, and coaching, David shares practical strategies he uses in his own deals, not theory, showing that financial freedom is possible for anyone willing to take action. I'd like to welcome you to the show, David. Thanks so much for agreeing to come on and share with us some of your life journey.
Dwight, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to
Uh,
sharing it.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. For the listeners and viewers watching, I had the honor and privilege of being on David's show, and it just made sense to have him on mine. Sometimes you just connect with people, and that's what David and I did, and that's why he's on our show to share his knowledge and information. I think that can make a big difference in your life. So, David, one of the things I like to explore with people, and I find is very influential in whether or not people hear what you have to say, is a person's origin, their earliest recollections, things that they remember about their lives that they maybe didn't think that had an impact on who they were, right, at the time.
Yeah.
But now they understand, oh wow, that little nuance made a difference in my life. And that's why I hit this trajectory in middle school. Some people it is. Some people it's even younger, or it's high school, or it's college, university, whatever the case may be. Please do me a favor and share whatever you feel comfortable with about your journey in life to where you are today.
Sure. I grew up in the inner city of Detroit. It was really poor. My mother was a single parent, on welfare. And one of the things that really stood out to me young was we were going to church and we would get food from the church pantry. And I remember one time in there getting food, and one of the little girls that was in like the same Sunday school class that I was in, she said, "Look, mommy, they're taking the food that we brought here." And what was it, that really a defining moment? I don't know, but it really stuck with me. And I knew that I didn't want to be poor. And I didn't want to have to go to church pantries to get, food and do all of that. And so I from an early on in my life, early on, I always wanted to obtain wealth. I just didn't know how. And I didn't have any in the home, let alone I had rental income and properties and whatnot. It wasn't until later in my life, somebody that I ran into told me they had I think it was a 6 unit multifamily on the northern western coast of Michigan, and I thought, that sounded really really cool and interesting, and I used to ask him about it, and he talked to me a little, and so I think that kind of planted the seed about real estate in me. I just didn't know how I was going to make it happen, but I've just been on a mission to figure it out.
So you had that experience, and it is a defining moment because if you share that moment of the church pantry, it's going to, it's stuck with you, so it's going to affect who you are moving forward. You're going to, some people will use it as a catalyst, other people will use it as an anchor, right? You used it as a
Yeah.
catalyst to move forward. And
Mm.
looking at somebody that's doing real estate and you didn't know what to do, but you knew you wanted to get into doing it, that's what I call an epiphany. We have something, that interests us. We're intrigued by it. But how many of us in this world today just let that thought become fleeting and disappear?
Sure.
They don't
Yeah.
grab onto it. They're not tenacious enough. So obviously, one of your superpowers, because most don't believe this, but I believe tenacity is a superpower, right? We have to be
Sure.
tenacious, and it starts somewhere. And it started all the way back to young David, and there's nothing wrong with that. So who actually did you admire? Did you find throughout that journey and wanting to learn about real estate, who did you admire or was somebody that you could turn to, whether it was directly or maybe you just followed them? Maybe it was somebody you followed on early stages of social media or they had a newsletter or you seen them at a conference. What connected you to really have that ember that was burning inside of you become a bonfire?
Well, I had mentioned the one person that had the multifamily. He was the first person I knew, and he was younger. It really surprised me when I heard that he owned that property, and I didn't know anybody else. And so that kind of just planted a seed. And it didn't like I didn't start all of a sudden going in that direction, but I just knew that guy had that, and it had always been in there. Now, I had done some no money deals through my life. I did my first two deals were absolutely no money deals, but I didn't realize what I had done. And I just kind of stumbled into them and didn't realize, hey, it didn't click yet. And so I still went through just wanting to be invested in real estate, making mistakes, wasting money, not knowing what to do or how to do it, and just learning the hard way. But it was once I got later in life where I started saying, I really want to figure this out. One of the people that I really admire and studied, his name's Ken McElroy. And he has a program that he calls Infinite Returns. And that's about getting into property, getting all your money back out and letting it continually pay you throughout, the history that you own it without ever having any money in it. So he called that infinite returns. And in the beginning, I didn't understand it. I really didn't. It seemed like I was trying to pick up a foreign language, but it took a while and it took a while. And I had people try to offer me deals and structures, and I just couldn't understand what they were saying. It just didn't make sense to me because, I learned through trial and error. I didn't have a coach. I picked up books and I read them, but it was after a lot of mistakes that I start really trying to focus on reading and really trying to understand what I was setting out to do. Because again, I didn't know anybody that owned property.
I love you sharing that story. Because so many people think that they can't just do things, make mistakes, make it a life lesson, and move forward. They use it as a crutch. Oh, I need somebody to show me. I need somebody to help. In today's day and age, even for over the last 20 years, there's a plethora of information that's available to us out there. And I tell people, you know what? Life is about ABC, action, belief, consistency. It starts with A, action, just like the alphabet starts. Take some action.
Yeah.
What happens if I fail? What happens if I make a mistake? Well, that's okay. That mistake is a life lesson if you decide to pivot it. So many people in my professional life, even in when I think back before my professional life, quit. Light doesn't bend around a corner. Right around the corner, if they could see, they would have maybe had one, two, three more challenges and they would have succeeded. How about Colonel Sanders? 62 years of age before 1,100 places that he approached before somebody said okay, and KFC was born. Did he give
Yeah.
up? 1,100. Come on, people that are listening, try a few times. And even then, try a few more times. If you're passionate about something, David, wouldn't you agree that there's no
Right.
obstacle?
Exactly.
That's what the action portion is. That's what the belief portion is. You do it and you get more continued belief. And the thing that's the most important is the A and C, action consistency, because that will increase your B. What's your take on that?
Oh, it's definitely it's true. And I just did a video and it talked about, you can read books, you can take the programs and the courses, you can watch videos on YouTube, but until you actually start taking action, you're going to encounter things that you didn't in the course, that you didn't in the books, that you don't see on the videos. And it's learning while you're there doing it that I think really moves you forward. And the consistency, you have to stay with it because, I had a partner early on and in some stuff that we invested in, and we really didn't know what we were doing. And, we lost money. We lost money on it. And he got really like, bitter about it and didn't want to invest anymore and just kind of steered clear of it. And then, it wasn't long after that he's seeing my book come out, and hearing about the properties I'm getting. And we were partners before, but, he got bitter about some of the stuff that both of us didn't know what we were doing. And we knew we wanted to be in real estate. And, we were trying to learn together, but some people can take those lessons and learn and move on. Other people, like you said, they kind of, it's a closed door and they don't want to go through it again.
Exactly. What just popped into my head though was I think about the fact that our learned lessons, we talked about that, our life lessons, our origin, and your pantry, and you're hearing about somebody with real estate. Maybe your friend didn't have the life lessons or the origin that give him the want, the desire, the need to do what you did. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but I find that when I've been partners with people and I've had to, and it just popped into my head. And now when I think about these people, those partnerships failed because we had different origins. I don't know if there's any concrete proof to that, but for me, I was a person that had a father that was a workaholic, always was at work. He always said, you know what? Never do things half-ass. Always go full on. Give your best 100%. No matter if somebody's paying you $1 or and this other person's doing the same chore and they're getting two, you agreed to the dollar. Work. Do what
Yeah.
you need to do. Take the
Yeah.
sacrifices, right? And it's unfortunate for your partner, but I don't know. I just something that just popped into my head. Maybe the listeners or viewers will find that interesting too. That I think our origin is more powerful than really people give it credit for, and why I focus on it so often.
Yeah, it's true. Thinking about what you just said, he mentioned a few times his parents had real estate and things happened. They ended up, it ended up negatively. And so maybe you're right. Maybe part of that origin led him to not want to experience some things that he saw previously, and maybe getting involved and having some losses. Maybe was just brought all that back right to the forefront of his mind. You're right. There's a lot that you can speculate there, but yes, our origins were definitely different for sure.
Oh yeah, and that's the only reason I wanted to bring it up. People that are listening and watching, even if your origin is something of your parents being extremely successful, it doesn't mean that you'll be successful.
Right.
But it might give you that drive to want that success. Or if there's failure, maybe your lens or your internal filter between your 6 inches between your ears, makes it so, like David's partner, you don't have any risk tolerance. But for David, he started out with, struggle. He was on the
Sure.
struggle bus.
Yeah.
Right. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I
No
get off the
problem.
tangents. My brain is a critical, well, I think I'm a critical thinker, but anyway, as a critical thinker, sometimes my brain in these interviews just goes all over the place. Our conversations make me think about, the connection of why people can be successful. So I appreciate you sharing that. So,
Sure.
you've been doing this for quite a while. Is there any specific story before we get into more like your podcast and other things? Is there any specific story you can share of triumph of doing what you're doing that you think that the listeners would enjoy hearing about to give them some hope and give them some faith that they can do what you're doing or something similar?
Sure, I have two if we have time that
Sure.
are very different, but I think they're great for beginners. The one is my first deal. I hadn't owned a home. I didn't have any money. I probably didn't have a job. I had bad credit for sure, and I was visiting my father. And my father told me he's selling his house. Well, that was the house I lived in as a kid. And I told him, well, I want the house. And he laughed at me. He thought it was a joke. He said, how are you going to buy the house? And I said, well, I want it. And I didn't know what to do. I'd never bought a home before, but I wanted that house. And so I got on the telephone. I went to the yellow pages at this time. And I just started going to lenders. I didn't to get this house. And so I just went there to start learning. And I picked up the phone and called one after the next, after the next. And I guarantee you, I went through more than 10 for sure. And they were like laughing at me, like, why are you even wasting our time? They would say, do you have credit? Do you have down payment? And I said, no, I don't. I don't. And they would just laugh at me, like, why are you calling? And I don't know what made me continue. After getting at least 10 no's all the same, why I continued, but I did. And I eventually found someone that said, let's see what we can do. And he was open to creative structures. And since it was my father, we were able to have my father gift equity in the house to me to give me as my down payment. I was able to partner with somebody, which this one was my brother. I went to my brother and partnered with him for the credit aspect. My father, since we were buying the house, he was normally asking 80,000 for it. He said, but if you guys are buying it, I'll sell it to you for 60. So we agreed to go ahead and still finance it at 80. So we closed, no money out of our pocket, and walked away with 20,000 at closing.
Wow.
So, and that was persistence. I just didn't stop. I was relentless. I just didn't stop. And the next one, now that was in the early 90s. The next one I just did recently. It was someone I was helping, no credit, no savings, taxes weren't up to date. He needed a home. And I helped him. He found a seller finance. He was able to negotiate. It was on a triplex. He was able to negotiate, be credited as his down payment. Two of the units were occupied. One was empty. He was moving into that one. The two occupied one, the two that were already occupied were paying rent. So the day he closed with no money, they paid him rent. And that was enough to pay his monthly payment and him leave there for free.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Remember what I said about tenacity being a superpower, brother?
Yeah.
If you've
You
never
know,
thought about that or nobody's patted you on the back, I'm giving you a virtual pat. Those watching have
thank you.
seen me doing it because that's awesome though, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
How mu-
definitely.
have you ever met unsuccessful people that aren't t tenacious though?
I meet people that I see they lack in drive and determination for sure.
Absolutely.
A lot of us are defeated, in our own minds. And I'll give you a quick little saying on that. Around
Sure.
2008, when the before the crash, everybody the homes were everybody was getting approved for loans everywhere. Well, someone came to me. I didn't own a home at the time, and someone came to me and said, Dave, you could buy a home. And I was like, no, I can't buy a home. I don't have all the pieces that we need to buy a house. And I was turning myself down before I even attempted. I didn't know. That determination, that it was that mindset. It was that before my mindset was, I want this house, and I wasn't hearing anything else, and I got that home. Now I was in the defeatist mindset where no, I can't. I don't have any of this. And, I eventually came out of that and found a seller finance that I was able to get into. But back to the point, I was defeating myself before I even attempted it. So it's that mindset. And a lot of us, hold ourselves back. It's,
Oh, for me, I'm not, for those listening or watching, those that have been listening to me for a long time on this show, I'm not judging anybody. I
mm,
lacked tenacity. I had something that changed, an epiphany, a light bulb moment that just changed me, that I became somebody that thrived on change and adversity and was always fighting against that imposter syndrome, right? That defeatist mindset.
yeah.
And my associations were so huge. So, this I didn't even put this down, but what's your thought process about how our associations, and then again, everybody thinks associations are just people. It's not.
Mm.
It's what we listen to, it's what we read, it's what we watch, and it is who we associate then. And sometimes our circle, our tribe is all about negativity. Did you have that throughout your life, or did you have a very supportive? Obviously, your dad was supportive, or he wouldn't have helped you. He may have laughed at first, but
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
stick with you, and then your brother, that's amazing. So what do you think associations have to do with our success?
Well, I had I was raised by my mother, and up until I was age of 16. Once I was 16, I went out on my own, and I had my child, my son by the age of 20. So I hadn't even finished high school yet, and I was living on my own. And so, I dropped out of high school. I never finished it. And throughout my life, I've just been on a course for learning, and I tried to educate myself outside of school, reading everything that I could, really anything that interest me. And so I had a strong, back to my mother, she instilled in me that, she was very supportive. You can be anything, so I think she instilled a lot in me. And watching her, when my father left, she wasn't educated. She didn't have a job, but now she had two children. And I saw that, our lights never got turned off. Our, phone number never changed. And I was a single parent raising my son. And I can't say those things. Neither can my son. We were evicted over 15 times I went through. I had times where I was so far behind in my utilities, I couldn't get them to turn them back on. I eventually had to move to get a whole nother address just so I could get my utilities turned back on. So, I think my mother had a lot to instill in me and give me that drive and determination. And from there, I've really been on a course and learned what I can. And I didn't want to accept that, someone else can do something and I just can't.
That's really what, when we started this, I wanted you to bring that up. I forgot all about the fact that a single dad, utilities, trying to keep things, the lights on.
Yeah.
I think I shared that on your podcast. So my listeners, a lot of them know this already. I went through that myself with my own kids. I ended up being a full-time dad to my four of my five kids. But
Right.
throughout those periods of time, I'd have them come through the joint custody and stay with me for long periods of time because they weren't getting along with my former wife. And I literally would pay one utility until I got the disconnection from the other utility. And people would
Yeah.
go, are you serious? I said, yeah. I'd make sure this one utility was paid, and then I'd get a disconnection from them. I remember coming home one time and they were going to shut my water off.
Yeah.
Right. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Like the,
Yeah.
the guy was super nice. He pulled the thing out because he was going to turn the valve and shut the water off at the
Yeah.
main, right outside by my driveway. And he says, let me make a call for you. He says, I've been there, brother. He says, I get it. And I had to run to downtown Edmonton, right? And I had to go get a bank order, right? To pay
Yeah.
it. They weren't going to just
Right.
take, because
Yeah.
back then, this was a long time ago, they weren't going to take a check from me. There was no
Yeah.
debit cards. I had to go to the bank, get a certified bank draft and take it to head office downtown Edmonton. And they gave me like, I think 3, 4 hours, which was very compassionate of them. I don't know if companies would do that today so that my water wouldn't get disconnected.
Right.
And it was
Yeah.
in the winter too,
Yeah.
right? And for us, winter is winter, right? So thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's just,
I think I shared with you while you were on my show where, I lived in that house where I couldn't get electricity turned on for a while before I could move. And so I learned how to connect an inverter to my car,
oh yeah.
and I would run extension cables all through my home to run the lights and the television and what we needed. And when my son would come home from school, he didn't have any electricity. He would have to sit in a dark home with no television, without anything, until I finally came home from work and connect everything to my car. And I'd leave my car running in the garage, and we that would power our house until I could finally get enough money to move. So, yeah, I've went through it for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Like I do remember you sharing that story, and I was amazed then, just as I'm amazed now. People use so many different excuses for not moving forward. And I look at the fact of what you were willing to go through. This must have been really, didn't really talk about your son though. Your son must have become very resilient as an individual through all of this.
Yeah, he's ridden it out really well. Yeah, him and I have an amazing relationship. First generation high school graduate, first generation, college graduate, on to get his master's, and he's looking to get his doctorate degree. So he
Wow.
rolled with it. He was fine. Luckily the evictions, he would go back east to visit our family, his mother and my mother. And while he was gone for those 3 months, I would get evicted and find a new home. And when he returned, he came home to a new house. So to him, he just thought it was kind of cool. He didn't really know my struggles. And I'm never a guy that ever talks about the negative in my life. I never talk about, oh, what's going wrong, what I'm gonna do, what we're gonna do, what's gonna happen. And so he never handled mine, but there was never any stresses. He didn't really feel any of that.
Well, yeah, yours again, everything goes back to our origin and we become what we want to become, but there's always a catalyst and a drive for it. And everything that your son's now
Sure.
accomplishing, um, I
Yeah.
guarantee there a lot of that had drive for him. And obviously, you as a dad going through all this adversity are trying to shield him, but he's seen it. He heard it. He picked up on it. It's just initially when he was younger, it was neat, and when as he got older, it was like, maybe this isn't something I want. Just like you with
Right.
your origin, right? And there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to,
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
let people that are listening and watching understand that you never have to stop giving a heck about your life. Like, listen to what David has gone through with his son, and look where he is today. You can be there too. Just be tenacious. Don't give up. And your associations, look at all the, like, I'll go back a little bit. You talked about all the reading you did and the different things and the research, and
Sure.
you can do that too, people.
Yeah.
But again, all goes back to do all that stuff, but take some action, right? So, let's talk a little
Yeah.
bit about your
Yeah.
podcast. Your podcast, No Money
Okay.
Millionaire, that inspires and educates people, a platform in regards to helping amplify the voice of, people who are breaking limiting beliefs. You've interviewed a wide range of guests and shared your own journey. What kind of impact are you seeing from sharing these stories to others and their transformations through your podcast?
It's really nice now. The podcast's been going, long enough now where I'm starting to get feedback. People are reaching out to me. They're telling me they've heard a certain episode and it really hit something that was going on in their life at the time, which was amazing. It's one of those things, and I live by this. They say, when you're ready, it will present itself when you're ready to receive. And it's like maybe it's one of those things where, you've never seen a particular car until you had one or wanted one. And then all of a sudden that's the only car you see now everywhere. You just see. I think once you're open to or connecting with the shows and reaching out and sharing it, and so that's been rewarding. And again, my podcast is relatively new, so I've only had a little amount of episodes, but already getting feedback and people talking about how it connected with what was going on in their life at the time. That stuff is amazing. It's great to hear that stuff.
Podcasting has been a treat and a blessing and a knowledge base for me. I don't know about you, but the nice thing is we get to choose who we have in our classroom to educate our
Exactly.
followers, right? So it's been very powerful. Obviously, mine's been a little longer, but I remember those initial stages that you're talking about, people reaching out. I can't even recall who I ran into in less than the last week. Somebody says, "Oh yeah, I just listened to your latest podcast episode." And there was somebody there, an acquaintance, not even really a friend, and I was going, "Oh wow, thank you. Do you enjoy it?" "Oh, I love it." I said, "Well, go leave a comment, please. It really helps."
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right,
it does.
on your
Yeah,
favorite platform.
yeah,
It's like pulling teeth though to get it on my about my book on Amazon or to get reviews on my podcast. So I just keep on doing it because I know that there's one person out there that I can affect and change. So that's all that matters. And when a person like
exactly.
that tells me they listen to my show, I was like, wow, stunned. So
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to ask is how has the experience been so far? So in your book, your digital book, No Money Millionaire, Build Wealth Through Real Estate Without Using a Dime of Your Own Money, you, of course, share practical strategies for building wealth without relying on savings and credit. Is there anything that you feel comfortable enough without having people having read it to understand the core principles of what you talk about in that book?
Well, the digital book that you've mentioned, that's available on my website at nomoneymillionaire.com as a free download. So anyone that's listening can go and grab that for free. The book is on Amazon and Barnes and Noble as well. So if someone actually likes the
Okay.
physical copy of the book, it is available. And so, but I always tell everyone it's available for free. You don't have to worry about, spending any money. It's valuable information. There's no reason not to grab it and read it. What I set out to do with this book was write it I would have had, and that was what I set out to write. Was when I was writing this, I was just saying, okay, I want this book when I was 20 something years old and started writing it out to that. Someone that was in that position, living paycheck to paycheck, path of where to go, no formal education. And I wanted to write a book to that person. And that's what I set out to do. And I tried to make it as thorough and cover, you know, not in great depth or detail. I wanted it to be consumable easily, but I wrote in complete A to Z what you need to do what I'm doing today. And hopefully it's enough that someone takes it, it inspires them, and then they can always, reach out to me for more information or more in-depth, training or whatnot. But it's enough from A to Z that should get somebody to be able to be in the path of where I'm at.
Well, that's awesome. I know a lot of people don't want to give away digital assets, digital books. I've given away, I've lost count because we had a system in place that people can get it, no problem, right? If you go
Yeah.
on to Amazon and get it, great. If you can't afford it, anybody listening or watching if they're new to the show, reach out to me. Just like David, you can get my book too. I haven't put it on my website like that, but I'm certainly going to do it. And that's one thing I did not realize. So I appreciate you sharing that it is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
And then showed for those watching, he showed a copy of the book. Cover looks great. Um,
Thanks.
like he said, he goes from for them it's Z, for us it's Z. So he goes from A to Z and helps people out,
Okay.
right? Us Canadians, eh? But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, he's willing to share that information with you. Like, we don't necessarily write books to make money. It's to educate, to give people hope, to give them faith, to maybe make it so that they do the ABCs of life: action, belief, consistency. So, reach out. I definitely will make sure that's in the show notes. I was going to mention it later on, but thank you for bringing that up. That the book's available now. I can change the show notes when I will send them up to the editor and make sure that it includes the fact of where it's located, so they can easily go to giveaheck.com, go into the podcast, you'll see the picture of David, and you'll be able to um, pick where you want to find the book. You don't have to pull
Yeah.
over your car, people. Don't worry about it. I've got you covered, right?
Yeah.
So that's anything else you'd like to share about the book writing experience? Was any of it because now that one of the things I did forget to ask you, for me when I wrote a book, it was very cathartic. Was it like for you writing that book? Did it bring back a rush of emotions? Did it make you pat yourself on the back finally about certain things, or kick yourself in the pants of things that maybe you didn't?
You know, it took a long, I think a little over a year to actually finish it. And I'd go back, I would read what I had written, and I'm like, oh, I need to add more, or what I had thought was going to be one chapter turned into two, maybe three chapters, and it just kept going and on and on. Again, I was breaking it down. Where I'm from in Detroit's very poor, and I know a lot of people that are still there and live in that way. And writing it to myself, yes, but I was writing it to them also, and that's what I was really doing. So I would read it, and I thought, no, I need to break this down a little more. I need to explain this a little more, and it just kept going and going and going. And so, and then one of the reasons that it's available as a free download, because, I know people are struggling. I've struggled myself. And a lot of times maybe you don't have that, whatever, $12 or whatever it is to buy the book. I don't want that to be the factor that prevents people from getting real estate from whatever situation. And, I've done, early on with absolutely nothing. So wherever situation you're in, you can do it. And I didn't want the $12 or what knowledge. So that's really what it was for the book with me.
And that's great though. You're right. There's so many people that are struggling. I had a gentleman the same sort of idea, but he did buy the book and he's reached out, he's written reviews for me, and it's how much it made a difference for him. So much so that he changed his life. He ended up getting, not because of the book, but he ended up getting divorced because he didn't feel, once the book taught him how he should feel or how he should move forward, his significant other didn't agree. And he moved to a completely different state, and he started up a business that now is he's got multiple staff. He can't keep up, and he credits a lot of his success to a couple chapters in my book that just give him a fire, like give him a spark. And I think about it,
That's
I'm gonna
amazing.
do that now. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
on to my
Yeah.
website and give the PDF away for free instead of just having people reach out and ask, right? This way they don't have that barrier to entry, right? Because the book isn't
Yeah.
about making money, it's about helping people, and enough people
Right.
will come our way where we'll make money and be able to prosper, right?
People I'm trying to encourage. It's more that, I'm trying to encourage. I'm trying to change people's mindset. I'm trying to make them believe they can do it more than they can do it themselves. And so from that, I said, I just need to put this in a book because I know there's more places than Detroit that are equal, where people are in the similar situations, and I want to get it out and inspire as many people as I can.
Oh, and that's so admirable. Good for you. I've actually been to Detroit. I know many Americans are shocked how many places I've been, but
Okay.
yeah, it's just like our city, like Edmonton, where I live, 1.5 million people for Edmonton Metro, and you look around and you can drive 15 minutes from where I live, and there's squalor, homelessness, right? And Detroit went through so much worse adversity than we ever did back when the car industry and everything bailed on them, right?
Yeah.
Initially, and it was crushing, right? And I seen that in Detroit, beautiful city, right? I've been in the former Joe Louis Arena, which doesn't exist
Right.
anymore,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know, it's just congratulations, though.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank you.
for. I'll thank you on behalf of all the people that don't reach out and thank us
Right.
for caring for people, right?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
all
thank you.
start. You're welcome. Starts at your origin, what you're continuing to do to help people. So we're getting close to the end of the show. Um, there's a couple other things I'd like to ask you though. If you lost everything today and had to start over from zero, absolute zero,
Yeah.
what steps would you take to rebuild? What would you recommend?
I made a video. It's on YouTube, and it's that you. I think you read my title, and it said, if I had to start from $0 today, what would be the first steps I took to get me right back where I am right now? And I'll just break it down. I go through five, but there's three main steps. The first step is get involved in your local real estate investor communities, groups, meetups. There's one that I'm part of here locally. It's a REIA group, which is a Real Estate Investors Association, and you have those all throughout. You probably have them, in your post on, on social media, post, comment on people's posts, start interacting. So make yourself known, and that's where you'll start finding people who are offering. There's wholesalers, they're offering off-market deals. You'll start seeing opportunities there. Now, how to take advantage of those opportunities? Well, you'll also meet and you can reach out. Like I have one posted right here. InvestorFi is a lender, and they do hard money loans, DSCR loans, different types of loans that will work off of the value of the property, the income from the property, not so much just on your own. So start reaching out to lenders who are lending on these types of properties, introducing yourself, saying, what would I need? How would I need to present it to you that you would fund a deal for me? Start learning exactly what you need, how to present it. And then after that, start getting active where people are, have money. Get into your chambers of commerces, your Rotary clubs, meetups, mixers, and start meeting people, because a lot of people want to invest in real estate. They don't have the time. They have their own jobs, and that's what they're doing, but they want to invest in real estate. So those are the three main pieces that enable me to do what I'm doing today.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. That YouTube video, I'm definitely going to, pretty sure I subscribe to your channel, but I'm going to put that link in the show notes. I think it would be important for people to
Sure.
have easy access, right?
Sure. Thank you.
The more
Yeah.
barriers to entry we can remove, the better,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Definitely.
Giveaheck.com is a pretty easy website to remember, right? If you've ever said the word heck in your life, which I think everybody has,
Yeah.
just put a
Yeah.
give a heck, put a giver in front of that heck.com, and you'll be able to find this information because actually I want to listen to the video. Whether or not we have these same groups in our cities, there's always
Sure.
groups. Meetup is a great site to go to, the
Exactly.
chamber, all those things all those little things that we think are common sense aren't so common.
Right.
So you've shared tidbits of information that hopefully one, if not more, are listening, well, that'll spark their drive, right? To
Yeah.
actually
Those
do that.
those are the three main pieces. Those are what you need. You need to find the deals. You need to find people who's lending, and you need to want to find people who's investing in it. And those are the core ingredients that you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The networking portion of it, though, is important. Like you said, people are too busy. You go to one
Yeah.
of these meetings, you go to one of these different events. Next thing, all of a sudden, somebody's, hey, David, pleased to meet you. What do you do?
Yeah.
Oh, I do this. Oh,
Yeah.
you know what? I've always wanted to do that. I never have the time. Oh, well, let's get together. Let's talk. Maybe I can help you. Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes the human connection and word of mouth it's the most powerful form of marketing, right? And
Yeah.
we tend to forget that. So I appreciate you sharing that with the guests, or pardon me, the
Yeah.
listeners.
One
S-
of the things, I'm sorry, real quick. One of the things that I found is everyone is so willing to share and help. You would think it's all competitive, everyone's looking at doing the same thing you're doing, but that's not what I found. I found in this community, people are there, they're helping. You can just come on and ask questions like, who's doing this, who's offering these, and people will come on and they'll help you. And I mean, it's been really great. And so, and from everyone that I speak to, that's the exact feedback I get from them and their other areas as well. So the community is very helpful and open to people coming in and wanting to learn. So
Community, that's important, right?
yeah,
Just like we talk about, we want to network, but once you network, are you dialing yourself into that community? Are you asking questions? Good questions, obviously. So many people just stand back in the shadows and wonder why they never succeed. Well, sometimes you have to open your mouth and remove all doubt, right? Of what your
yeah.
intentions are, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. So you're a prime example of that. Thank you for sharing that information. David, if you could give our listeners one last closing message, something that proves it's always worth giving a heck and never giving up, what would that piece of advice be?
Like I mentioned earlier, don't be defeating yourself before actually getting out there and attempting it and trying it. Because, what we build up in our minds, the barriers that's preventing us from actually taking action, those are usually the stronger, bigger barriers to overcome than what you actually face when you're out there and doing the work. So really, be open to doing something new, being open to trying something, and stop defeating yourself like I did. Many times I was shutting myself down, and I never didn't have to. The information is available, whether it's my book or anything you're offering at Give a Heck. The information is out there. Stop putting up your own barriers because those are the stronger ones than you're going to face when you actually get out there.
Wow, that is a great message. Thanks for being on the show, brother. I really appreciate it. A couple things I'm gonna mention here, and I'm gonna wrap up the show. Some of it's already things David has mentioned, but I had already put it into my flow and want to make sure that you really understand. Visit his website. You can get the free digital download of the book.
Yeah.
Now you know that you can go to Amazon, you can go to Barnes and Noble, right? It gives you immediate practical values by teaching you how to start investing in real estate without using your own money. People, it's possible. David's proof, right? It also keeps you connected to David long term. You can subscribe to a newsletter. He's mentioned that, where he shares mindset strategies, real estate tips, and proven methods to build wealth from nothing. Plus, he also just finished telling you he has a YouTube video where he does little videos that share different things. Why wouldn't you want to check that out? Right? I will make sure that all the links for his YouTube channel, his social media, his website are included in the show notes. They're detailed, they're precise. There's also the full unedited transcript. There's no reason for you not to check it out. If you have the spark inside of you, find somebody to help ignite it. And that person could be David. You got nothing to, what really do you have to lose? A little bit of time, maybe a Netflix binge for one evening, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just time to binge on some David videos and check out his site, buy his book, get the free digital download if you're, a little bit tight on money. I've been there. David's been there. We
So
understand the difference between us and other people. We're just farther along on the journey. We develop tenacity that has become contagious for ourselves, and hopefully it becomes contagious for you as well. Is there any last minute or anything last you'd like to comment before I wrap up the show?
just thank you. Thank you for your platform. Thank you what you're offering. I appreciate all that information you're sharing about myself. And, obviously what you've been providing has been a great resource and benefit to many people. So just thank you. Thanks for inviting me on.
Oh, you're welcome. And thanks again for having me on your show too. It was a real treat. I really enjoyed it. So
Yeah.
I'm going to wrap up the show now. So before we close, remember your ideas are valid, your instincts are powerful, and your journey is worth protecting. Whether you are just starting out or scaling something big, give a heck. Give it boldly because when you honor your creativity and take action, You are not just building wealth, you are building a legacy. This has been David, the No Money Millionaire, a voice of grit, clarity, and empowerment for anyone ready to turn adversity into opportunity. If this conversation moved you, share it with someone who is sitting on a dream or idea. Let them know it's never too late to start, and it is always worth pursuing what you believe in. If this episode resonated, please subscribe to the podcast or hit subscribe on YouTube. Leave a review or rating in your favorite app. It helps to get out there, right? The algorithms understand relatability of people reviewing, commenting, 5-starring it, and it'll get out to more people. So I'd really appreciate that, because people need to hear the messages of fantastic individuals like David, right? So please do that. I'd appreciate it. Every review helps amplify the messages that I'm working on so that people can give a heck about their life. So until next time, keep giving a heck about your life. And remember, no matter what stage of life you're at, it is never too late to give a heck.
Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to give a heck.